Hi guys, this is a video for lesson 10-1, which is converting all types of numbers into decimals. Everything can turn into a decimal pretty easily, so if we want to do things like compare or know what number is larger than another but our numbers aren't the same kind of number, we can change everything into decimals very easily. So that's the purpose of today. Some of this is a review, but it's skills that we need to do the stuff later in the chapter that's not going to be a review. Repeating decimal. I think we're all very accustomed to seeing things the way that you see on the far left. There's a repeating bar over the numbers that repeat. So if the 6 were to repeat, then it gets the bar. If the 1 and the 2 repeat, for the 8.12 repeating, then the bar extends all the way over. Okay, 3 digits repeating. Okay, at the bottom we have 6.7. and only the 2 repeats. All right. Another way of showing repeating, which you'll see on throughout the assignments and notes in here, is if you don't have a way of typing a repeater bar over something, and in Classkick we can't do that, then I'm going to show you a couple different things, okay? First of all, if you are seeing something typed that has 666 ... that would be an indication that it repeats and goes on forever with 6s, okay? So if something has 3 copies of it, let me scroll up so you can see that, okay? If you have 3 copies of the repeated digits followed by ... that means that those digits repeat forever. Okay, so 8.12, the line, could be expressed as 8.121212. 4.835 repeating. If I write 4.835, 835, 835, ... that means the same thing. Okay, so for the purposes of our assignment, I'm going to, because we don't have the ability to do repeater bars, and we want kind of some consistency between what we're doing on this with repeating decimals, with other things that we're doing, we've kind of made the blanket idea that we're going to just express everything with 6 decimal places. So 0.6 repeating on your assignment would look like 0.66 without the ... okay? And this is just for the purposes of the Classkick assignment, okay? 8.121212, that's already 6 place values, so I'm not going to show that. The next one is 4.835835. For the purposes of our assignment, like I said, we're going to find the decimal place and go 6 numbers after that. Okay, the 4 does not count as one of our 6. It's 6 numbers after the decimal. 6.7222, I would need 2 more 2's to make 6 place values after the decimal. So that's what we're going to do for our Classkick, just to keep it consistent with other things that we're going to be doing. Okay, so fractions. If you have a fraction that you want to change into a decimal, you divide the numerator by the denominator. Okay, that means the top number, 7, divided by the bottom number, 8. So that's what you see here, 7 divided by 8. And the calculator readout is 0.875. Now it's stopped after the 5. We only have 3 decimal places there, so we don't have to type anything after that if we're working on the Classkick. Okay, so scrolling down, I'm going to show you some examples. That's like the basics of it. I'm going to show you some examples that are a little bit more involved. So you can see here that 4/25 equals 0.16. So this is the algebra calculator because it's the only one that I have as an on-screen option, but I can show you the basics here. 4 divided by 25, and you see it gives an answer of 0.16, okay, which is what we have. the leading zero, it's technically proper to put the leading zero, but it's not wrong if you don't. Okay, negative 5/6 equals negative 0.83 repeating. So the negative sign, all you have to do is take that negative sign and carry it over. So here's the negative sign, I'm just going to carry it over. I don't have to actually use it in the calculator at all, okay? And for the answers, I have expressed both as with the repeater bar. You can see here with the 3 copies of something and then the ... But for the purposes of our assignment on Classkick, instead we're going to have 6 more decimal places, or 6 decimal places total. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And where did the 0.83 come from? It comes from dividing 5 divided by 6. Okay, and the calculator gives us our 0.83 repeating. Now, unless you're a math nerd like me who's done math, I mean, it's going to be my 19th, 20th year, somewhere around there, teaching math, math major in college. Unless you are a math nerd like me who just memorizes math facts more than the average person, you're not going to be able to look at a fraction other than super simple ones and know what their decimal is. Like 1/2, I think you all know is 0.5, or 1/4 is 0.25, or something like that. But you know, you're not going to be able to figure out most fractions as decimals without your calculator. What if there's a mixed number? So we've got a whole number of 3 and 9/20. So again, just like the negative sign, the whole number does not need to do anything in the calculator. I don't have to do anything with that whole number. I can just take that 3 and deposit it in my answer. Okay, I don't need to put that in my calculator at all. The only thing I need to put in my calculator is 9 divided by 20. And I get an answer of 0.45. And that just gets tacked on after the decimal part. All right, how about a percent into a decimal? Well, all you're going to do to change the percent into a decimal is move that decimal 2 places to the left. Okay. So in my first example, there's no decimal in 45%. So I'm going to know that in any number where you don't see a decimal at all is at the end of the number. So the rule is you move it over 2 times, once, twice. So that makes my answer 0.45. In our next example, we do have a decimal point. Okay, we're going to move it again 2 times. Uh-oh, I moved it once and I run out of room. I run out of numbers. Okay, you still move it a second time and you fill that space with a 0. So this would be 0.035. Okay, 90%. Again, there's no decimal in it already, so I will put one at the end, and then I will move it 2 times. And I included this example because of the 0 right here. Oh, shoot. There we go. So technically, because it ends in a 0, I really don't need it. I can just put 0.9, and you should know that 0.9 and 90% are the same thing. It's not like 0.9 is 9%, but it's not going to be wrong if the 0 is there. It's the same thing. They mean the same thing. Sometimes you have really big percents. if you have a really big percent, it still moves over 2 places. Okay, there's a misconception with a lot of students that percents just mean plop the decimal out in front of the number, and that's not how it works. That works sometimes. It works if your percent is 2 digits and a whole number, but it doesn't work at any other time. Okay, so this would be 2.75. One more. This last one, some students like to say, well, this is already a decimal, I just take away the percent sign. No, that's not how it works, okay? The rule is if you see a percent sign, you move the decimal over 2 times. And again, we fill that hole from moving 2 times with a place holding 0. So our answer is a decimal point, 0.008. Here's another thing I want to point out in the answer. Some students put 0.00.8. They keep the original decimal and they put the new decimal. Don't do that. No number has 2 decimal places in it. Think about all the real life situations you see decimals for. Money, different things on TV. You've never seen a number that has 2 decimal places in it because it's not a real thing. Square roots. All right, if you have a TI-30 X2S calculator, which is what we use in class, if you have that very same calculator, these are the buttons you would push to get an answer to a square root. You know, back when I was your age, my math teacher taught us how to do square roots by hand. It's like long division on steroids. I don't remember how to do it precisely anymore. And nobody expects students today to do a square root by hand. The process is a huge pain. I do remember that. So square roots are done all on the calculator. Okay, and this is the sequence of buttons that you would push. You would push the second key because the square root symbol, I don't know if you can see it, but if you have the X squared key, all right, the square root symbol is above it. And that's what you want, is the square root. So because that's above the squared key, we have to hit the second key. So second, X squared, you type the number that you want, and then you hit enter. And most of the time, you're going to get a really ugly answer like this, okay? Now, we, again, for the assignment, are only wanting you to type out 6 decimal places, and we're not asking you to round. Just type the first 6 numbers after the decimal that you see, okay? So, in other words, if I am on a calculator, this is what the calculator is going to spit out. All right, I don't want you to use all of those place values. So if this is what the calculator display would look like, I would keep the 7 because it's in front of the decimal place, and then I would count 6 numbers after the decimal. So the 4, the 8, the 3, the 3, the 1, and the 4. Okay, not paying attention to rounding right now. Okay, so I am just chopping these numbers off. Okay? A cube root looks like a square root, except it has a tiny little 3 in the check mark part of the radical symbol. Now, our calculators do cube roots, but they don't have a dedicated button for it like square root does. So we have to kind of tell the calculator that we want to do a cube root by typing the number 3 first, then the second key, and then we're going to use the caret key because above it, and it's really hard to see, but above it there's something that looks like x root. In fact, I'm going to draw that again to make it look better. I don't know if that looks any better. Okay, but your calculator should look like 3x root 56. If your calculator does not look like 3x root 56 before you hit enter, you did something wrong. If you try to use the other root, if you try to do 3 square root 56, you're not going to get the right answer, okay? So make sure when you look at your calculator screen that it says 3x root 56. That's what your screen should look like. If that x is missing, that's a problem. And our answer is 3.8256 or 5862. And here again, I just used the first 6 decimal places and chopped off the end. Now, not all of them come out ugly, all right? The square root of 400 is 20. That's a nice number. And it comes out 20 because 20 times 20 is 400, okay? Nothing times itself gives me 60. 6 times 10, 5 times 12, but there's no number that I can multiply by itself. So that one would be one that comes out kind of yucky. The square root of 2.25, it looks like it would probably come out as a decimal because it already is a decimal, but actually it doesn't. It comes out 1.5. So until you plug a square root into the calculator, you really don't know how it's going to come out. Okay? Square root of 6, that's another ugly one. Okay? Cube root of 64 is just 4, because if I take 3 4s and multiply them all together, I get 64. 75, not so pretty. The cube root of 0.027 is 3/10. So that one came out nice, even though it looked like it wouldn't. And the cube root of 10 does not come out nice. I will tell you, most roots don't. Most roots do not come out nice. So you're just going to have to put it in your calculator to see what you're going to get. All right, guys. Thanks. See you next time.